Hi everyone, this is Kevin, one of the Climb Flow coaches for the Climb Flow podcast. And today we're recording the 12th episode, and we are interviewing Matt Chapman, who's a climbing coach, and he's got his own kind of company set up over in Canada. And the reason I'm interviewing Matt today is because of his very unique style within the industry of coaching. So check out the episode and I'll let you guys listen.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, well, it was a lockdown project.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I noticed a lot of climbers were frustrated
Yeah.
and were missing climbing. So a lot
Yeah.
of home climbing was being built. And then
Yeah,
I've
that's right.
even got up there the crack system.
Crack. Let's go. Let's go. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So as a I guess as a climber who was raised on climbing in Britain,
Yeah.
like we're not very good at crack climbing.
Okay.
Yeah, because
You're
it's
not very good. You said you're not very good?
no, I think it's like in the UK, a lot of the climbing that we get here is very kind of like face on climbing.
I see.
Yeah, we do get a few cracks, but not that many.
You
Uh,
have some pretty famous UK crack climbers.
yes, you do. Yeah, Pete and Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are a breed apart.
Are they? Okay.
They are, yeah, and I think since they've done their social media stuff and they've done all the things they've done, I think crack climbing has become a little bit more um, attractive and known in the UK.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I set a crack for my team like once a month.
Okay, do you?
Yeah.
And how do they get on?
They learn it. They
Yeah.
learn it. But it shows up in comps every once in a while, right? So it's better to know how to do it.
Yeah. I think it started to show up in comps a few years ago, didn't it?
Yeah, there was the World Cup when Adam Ondra was the only, I think he was the only send of that great crack system they built, and then everyone ran out and made sure they knew it for the next World Cup. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, cool. So yeah, so I guess I don't know much about you. I think
okay,
I tried to do some research, and there's obviously some information that you put on your website.
yeah,
There's little bits of information that I managed to grab from here and there. But I
yeah.
think all I've managed to find out was that you've been climbing for 30 years,
28, yeah,
28 years, and you are currently a performance climbing coach
yeah.
with a interest in, I guess, the head game and the psychology in climbing.
That's a big part of it. That's a big
Yeah.
part of it for sure. I mean, the we focus on. I get to work with athletes of all different levels, so developing youth athletes, competition youth athletes, all the way up to IFSC pros, and the head game is really the game. I mean, once you learn how to climb well and you're strong and you can beta read and I mean, there's always errors to be made in the climbing, section of development, but more or less especially when you're working with like the top three athletes in any division, it's head game,
Yeah.
top 10 probably,
Yeah.
you know. So and we see that all the time in World Cups, like there's the top 10 climbers and it's almost, especially in the men's field, it's anybody's game,
Yeah.
and anyone in that top 10, it's anybody's game depending on their day. There's luck involved, like, do the boulders suit you perfectly, and are you just dialed in on that day? But the head game is a huge piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just became part of my system for developing athletes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think
Yeah.
it's probably like you say, I think it's one of the most underdeveloped skills within climbing, and
Yeah.
it's one of those skills that can get you so much further. I think
Yeah.
like technique climbing can get you certain distance, working on strength can get you so far, but working on your head game, I think if you're able to work as long as your body is able to, if you're able to work at your body's max for that
Yep.
moment, then
Yep.
your body will just adapt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You do it in your head first and then often the body will follow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So how long have you been coaching for?
So I started climbing when I was, I don't even know, late teens, early 20s, I think maybe 19 or 20.
Okay.
Um, and I almost immediately got into, I think I was most excited by the um, reverse engineering why I was having trouble. So if I was struggling with something, I really had a mind that wanted to reverse engineer what was going on. Why was this difficult for me? Was it just an issue of strength? Um, so I think my brain became pretty obsessed with movement
Yep.
and geometry and just
Yep.
how I'm holding holds. Can I change how good that hold feels depending on where I position my hips and my shoulders and my head? And so almost immediately I started working with athletes. I mean, I was a year in, I wasn't climbing very strong. And I was already working with my friends and just sort of like helping them figure out climbing movement.
Yep.
There's no books on it, right? There still isn't really.
Yeah.
So we were just trying to create the language. And that just stuck with me. So I continued coaching in different sports for many, many years. I've always loved to teach and coach. But when my daughter started climbing at 7 years old, that's when I got really serious about the profession of pedagogy and breaking down movement and how do you take complex things and chunk them into manageable sized pieces that we can understand and link together and create a system for climbing movement and understanding climbing and filling in gaps. I mean, my daughter was not the strongest climber compared to her field. Some
Yep.
of those girls are just so strong. So we had to um, find ways to fill those gaps. So finding her superpowers like flexibility and climbing IQ and finger strength, things like that. We had to close the gaps in unique ways. So that's always been how the part about climbing that I like is the academic side, if you will.
Yep.
And Indiana went on to become an IFSC professional, and I just continued to gain athletes based on my athletes doing well at big comps, and then people would just, hey, can you coach my kid, or can I work with you? Or, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you do, or what did you study, or what did you do as a job before you became a coach?
So I'm a teacher by trade. I'm an
Okay.
educator by trade.
Okay.
So
What did
I'm
you teach?
yeah. I run the visual arts program at a high school.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So
totally different
you're
thing. That was my
creative.
yeah, that was my life for since I was 14. I was a professional artist. So climbing was just a hobby until it became
Okay.
much more than that. I got pretty obsessed with climbing when I was got to the point where I was climbing full time and just training 7 days a week. I didn't really rest or it was I was obsessed for many, many years, decades actually.
Yeah.
And then I retired 4 years ago. So
From
I could
climbing.
focus on, yeah, I just lost interest and now I full
Really?
time. Yeah,
So you don't
yeah.
climb anymore?
I don't touch the wall. I don't even forerun and I set every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happened?
So I'm a bit of an all or nothing guy, a bit of an all or nothing guy, I guess you
It's
can't
an
really say that.
understatement.
Yeah, I'm all or nothing. So, um, when I was climbing full time, I was borderline obsessed.
Okay.
And then when I got into coaching, when coaching became, something that I really wanted to get good at, um, I quit climbing so that I could focus on coaching.
So that
Um,
that's now your obsession.
that's my obsession. So I'm studying tape constantly.
What does that
Either
mean?
my athletes studying tape. So tape is I'm studying video.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked in the film industry for a while, so we called it tape. But
Okay.
yeah, so I'm studying video constantly, whether it's World Cup climbers or my own athletes. So and also, climbing is changing so much. Like the competitive climbing scene is just on this bizarre growth spurt. There's new holds literally every day.
Okay.
Um, Dual texture, no texture. I mean, this is the latest thing, right? There's
Yeah,
there's
no
companies.
texture. Yeah.
Yeah, they're building full lines of no texture holds. I'm ordering them. I mean,
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, and not only that, but there's the climbing movement is constantly changing. The setters are getting more and more creative, especially at the IFSC level. Um, that kind of sets the tone. The IFSC setters set the tone for setting, and then it trickles down to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
Um, so and they're being copied, right? The moves are being copied at comps, and then we see them at our nationals and things like that. So uh, the sport is just on this rapid growth streak where there's new movement every day, there's new holds every day,
yeah,
and it's my job. I see it as my job to figure out how to navigate that world
yeah,
and to prepare athletes not only for um, the new changes, but for the changes that I predict are coming. So before there was no texture holds, I was getting vinyl from a sign company. I was getting their like rolls of like their finished rolls for free. Like
yeah,
they'd have a yard or two of vinyl on a roll,
yeah.
and I would just get those rolls of vinyl, and I would cover my holds in slippery clear or white plastic vinyl,
Okay.
so that my kids were learning how to navigate holds with no texture that are slippery.
Yeah.
I was doing that a few years ago prior to no texture holds.
Okay.
Um,
So you're a bit of a
I just,
trendsetter.
I just know it wasn't me. I just saw it coming.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just saw it coming. I saw
Yeah.
dual texture, and I was like, it's going to be only a matter of time um,
No
before
texture.
they're making us, yeah, before they're making us hold on to those. And now it's pretty popular with even with youth. They're having to hold on to no texture, stand on no texture. And I
Really?
think it's just because I'm full time, I have time to keep my pulse on the evolution of competition climbing. And
Yeah.
because I have my finger on the pulse, I can better prepare my athletes. And because my athletes are well prepared, we win a lot of comps.
Yeah. 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 Okay. I guess your your focused nature helps with that.
It does, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I want to make sure, like, if my athletes aren't doing well at a comp, I see it as my fault.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's your responsibility to prepare them as best you can. But
Yeah,
I guess they still hold responsibility for their performance.
they do, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So do you get quite good results?
I do.
You do. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
It's obviously meaning something you're doing something right.
Well, ironically, we don't focus on results. Like, let's talk about the youth team, for
Yes.
example. So my youth team, I have everything from 7 years old to, you know, juniors, like trying to find their spot on Team Canada
Right.
or my remote athletes trying to get onto Team Germany or Team Japan or Team
Yeah.
China. Like, I have athletes that are fighting for those spots, and then I have like I said, all the way down to 7 year olds. So for the youth team, we don't put a lot of emphasis on results.
Of
We
course.
put a ton of emphasis on really hard work, on
Yeah.
consistency, on
Yeah.
discipline,
Yeah.
on resiliency. I would say is my main approach,
Yeah.
uh, which leaves me with a dubious reputation in the industry.
Why?
Um, at least in Canada, I think this is my hometown. I don't know. Maybe I'm a polarizing figure in my approach,
What does that
but
mean? Polarizing figure.
polarizing meaning like I'm this or that. I'm not nothing in between,
Okay.
and I think that's just people's opinion, right?
I guess
Because in reality,
people only see what they see on, I guess, social
yeah,
media, etc., and make
yeah,
judgments.
yeah, they see what they want to see,
Yeah, of
and
course.
because of that, sometimes I meet people and they have a pretty strong opinion of me before having actually worked with me or met me or worked with my athletes. So,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if from afar, I'm pretty hard on my athletes,
Yeah.
but up close, I have coaches fly in from different parts of the world to shadow me for a week, um, and also I run training camps all over the world, so I get to meet parents and athletes for the first time, and all of their reviews are quite the opposite.
Yeah.
That it's very much about caring for athletes
Cool.
um, and sort of a holistic approach of trying to develop strong, confident human beings.
Yeah.
And climbing is just the vehicle.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a certain perspective, I'm just yelling at kids.
Oh, man, I've got two kids. I've got
Yeah.
a nearly 17-year-old who's
Yeah.
a teenager that obviously doesn't listen, uh, doesn't think that parents know absolute, thinks parents know nothing. Uh,
Classic.
Hard work, but I think like thinking about him and I think you're obviously a very good role model to your athletes. I think being I think what I would refer to is being firm.
Sure.
You're very firm, clear boundaries and clear expectations with what
Yes.
you expect them to do.
Yeah.
Um, which in today's world, where everything is about being a little bit too fluffy,
Yeah.
if I can
Fluffy's a
say
good
that.
word.
Pardon?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. Fluffy's a good word. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I think kids need resilience, right? And
Yeah.
uh, you're going to teach that by making sure that they work hard and that they, I guess,
Yeah.
all the topics you were talking about kind of relate to, I'm guessing, mental resilience.
It's mental resilience for sure. I mean, we're very
Mental
goal
resilience,
focused.
mental toughness,
Sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, mental toughness, mental resiliency. As much as I say we're not focused on results, we're very goal focused.
Yeah,
So my athletes are required to set goals,
yeah,
and I try to steer them away from goals that are rooted in results, like winning gold.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That being said, when I'm working with my with pro climbers, like IFSC pro climbers, um, that attitude has to change. They actually have to adopt a championship mindset in
yeah,
order to just will their way to higher rankings and higher spots. But I mean, for developing youth, yes, we do not focus on results at all, but we are very goal driven.
yeah,
So whether that's fitness goals or mindset goals, a lot of them end up being mindset goals.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
because comps are hard, right? Comps are super
course
hard on
they are.
these
Yeah,
kids.
it's
Yeah, they're
hard work,
super
right?
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like teaching children or youth to deal with failure, what we
Yeah.
perceive in society to be failure,
Yeah.
right, is I think nowadays you get a lot of schools that participate in kind of sport days, and everyone's a winner,
Yeah.
and really not everyone's a winner. The only person that
No.
won is the person that won.
Yeah.
Everybody
That's
else
true.
everybody else came second, third, or whichever place they got. And I think like that doesn't teach resilience for kids. The amount
It
of
doesn't.
times that I guess if I look at my climbing, the amount of times that I've failed is way, way, way more than the amount of times I've succeeded in anything that I've done.
Oh, I love that about climbing, right? It's like
Yeah,
99% failure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think teaching youth and children that and to relish in, I guess, what we perceive to or what we label as failure, right?
Yeah.
Creates resilience and then creates a strong mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like to turn up that volume on failure.
Yep.
I dial that up quite a bit in training.
How do you mean?
Law of exposure is something that I'm very interested in. So the more we do anything, the more we practice anything, the more we're exposed to anything, the more comfortable we get with it. So uh, I set every day for my kids. They're on new competition style boulders, new movement, new school movement. I have a private wall at the gym where we train,
Yep.
so I'm able to set on it every day. And I set the endings purposely to be almost improbable.
Yep.
Um, there might be a top, out of my 22 kids, one kid, like the best top A boy, might top a boulder in a
Yep.
session, but more or less they are failing for 3 hours straight.
Yep.
And we do that day after day after day after day. And what that allows us to do is reframe what failure is.
Yep.
The more youth programs that I get to visit as I tour the world and do training camps, is I see it's a cookie cutter kind of template where athletes are um, climbing boulders and sending boulders in practice. I mean, that's all they do. They climb. I mean, maybe they do a little workout as well.
Yep.
But and and when I work with these athletes, it's the same thing. They're just not used to falling and failing.
Yeah.
So when I do a training camp with them and I turn the setting up quite a bit, so they're failing on moves. Never mind boulders, they're failing on the first move, like a really low percentage run up start, things like that. Um, I have these kids breaking down, not my kids, but the kids where I visit teams and work with them. They just are not used to not being able to do something,
Yeah.
especially if they're a high performance team,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I'm curious about. That's what I want to get into is reframing failure so that it's a positive thing. As athletes fail, and then when they fail, we get to reverse engineer why, and we start to really study the movement and really focus on skill development. And as we do that, they just have to build mental resiliency because they have to kind of buck up and continue to work, right? They have to continue to like, forget sending the boulder. Let's get this move. Let's figure out how to do this really hard move. And then once we do that, we celebrate. You did it. Good. Now do it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And then they do it 3 times in a row. And sometimes that takes many, many attempts.
Yeah.
Um, but they land it 3 times in a row. And then we sit down again and say, okay, now you're building muscle memory. You now, this isn't luck. You are developing skills. You are developing better climbing ability. And as you do that, even if there's tears rolling down their face, you didn't quit. You kept going. You kept pushing, and this is what it's all about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then over time, they get so used to that. They get so used to really hard moves and so used to constant failure and learning how to just deal with it that when they get to comps feel easier because
Yeah.
they're so used to just savage, like really hard setting. um, but when they fail in comps, their emotional self-control is just so much finer tuned. It's just so much stronger. So fewer kids breaking down into tears at
Yeah.
comps,
Yeah.
um, which is a big problem in our industry because it's just kids should be enjoying climbing, and I see so many kids just falling apart at competitions. It's really sad.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it's the lack of resilience, right? I think I was speaking to Jorg Verhoeven last week.
Yeah,
He mentioned Janja lost a competition at some point in the last year, maybe. I can't remember which one.
yeah,
And she was used to obviously winning all the comps
yeah,
and didn't know how to deal with it.
yeah. Yen is different because I mean, winning is a whole other thing. Like, um, my daughter, Indiana, when she was growing up, she won, I don't know how many, 9 or 10 national championships. And she went on these huge streaks. She did one season where she didn't fall. Um, she didn't fall on any boulder or any route. She
Okay.
flashed every boulder of every round for the whole season. When I finally took her out of Canada and into the US to start doing that circuit, she's again started winning everything in the US, and then got to US nationals and didn't make semis. And that was her first like big loss in a new country. And again, same, like really deep sort of ontological, like what's wrong with me? Am I no good?
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
and I think that's a whole different topic. It's a topic that is for very few people, right? Like people that are constantly winning and then
Yeah,
they lose. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean that's a tough thing to face for those athletes, especially if you know what I find. That's not that I find it. The reality is that these youth climbers, all the way up to like pro climbers like Yanya, who have been doing it forever, climbing isn't their sport. It's a really deep part of their identity.
yeah,
It's a really deep part of their identity. And I've seen that with athletes that, get to that middle teenage years when they're like 16, 17, their social life starts to grow, because they've been in a gym their whole life as kids, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're,
yeah, yeah,
but they start getting a social life outside of climbing. They get into university, their needs change, their desires change, and they battle. How do I walk away from climbing? Do I want to walk away from climbing? And for the kids that I've worked with over the decades, it's a really deep. When I walked away climbing, or when I walked away from hockey, I played hockey every day growing up. It was just I just walked away. I didn't really care.
Okay.
But these kids, like, it's a really deep part of their identity. And
Yeah.
we have to work through that. We have to work through, um, you know, creating new goals and seeing climbing as something that was a beautiful part of their childhood, but it doesn't define them. Things like that. I mean, it's tough. So when Yanya loses a comp, yeah, it's no big deal. She's won, whatever, 50 medals, but I'm sure it challenges how these athletes feel about themselves and their worldview, at least for a moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I guess question
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, doubt, which I think is a beautiful thing. I love doubt. I want my kids to have doubt. I think doubt is really, really important.
Yeah.
So that, yeah,
Why do you think that's important?
well, I think if you're going to believe in anything, right? Let's just say you're going to believe in yourself. You're going to believe you're capable of something. Um, Doubt means that it's just the other side of it, right? It's the other side of the coin. Doubt is, uh, I'll phrase it a different way. So winning a comp is easy.
Yeah.
Winning a comp is super easy, right? You just win. You get your medal and you get your picture, and then you move
Yeah.
on to the next thing. But that athlete that won, let's just say they trained, a million hours to win that comp. What's hard is the other athletes that trained a million hours for that comp, and they walk back to their car, to the gym, with nothing.
Yeah.
They lost.
Yeah.
They didn't earn anything. There's no result.
Yeah.
That's way harder,
Yeah.
right? That's way harder.
Yeah.
And walking back after dedicating that much time with nothing, and again, I've seen that a million times, even with my own daughter who trains so hard. You come in fourth, or you miss finals by a spot, or you're silver instead of gold. It's really hard on these kids. It's really, really hard on them. That's the stuff that I'm more interested in. That's where resiliency comes in. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now what, right? Do you want to quit, or do we just go back to work,
Yeah.
right? Do we figure out how to go back to work? Why are we doing this? Are we doing this for results and medals, or are we doing this because we love that process?
Yeah.
Um, so that for me is what doubt is. Doubt is, you
It's
know, can you can you find a way to believe in yourself?
yeah.
Because it's really hard to do that.
Of course, yeah. It's a good. I guess doubt in those moments is a very good way of creating a moment for self-reflection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And why? Why are we doing this? I mean, this is nothing new. Everybody knows, but you have to have a why, and that why has to be rooted in a very real conviction. Like,
Yeah.
you need to have a sense of conviction of why you are doing something. Why are you putting in this many hours in the gym? Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you saying no? Like my daughter growing up, why are you saying no to birthday parties and sleepovers so that you can go train in the gym? You're 11 years old. Like, why are you making that choice? And for her at that time, her why was very, very strong. She really knew why she wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And as a coach, sometimes I have to guide their why, because sometimes the why is misguided. Like, I want to win. Okay, well, that's an okay why, but
Yeah.
that might not be a sustainable why. So let's find a reason for you doing this that's more sustainable, more holistic, more about you developing as a human being.
Yeah. 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 A bit deeper than just winning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I have athletes that train super, super hard and they don't win anything
Okay.
ever. They've never won. They've never even podiumed. But they're
But
some of
the,
the hardest working athletes I have.
but then the focus isn't winning, is it? I think
Correct.
like climbing. Looking at my I guess my own climbing is that climbing is a great platform for learning about yourself as an individual and developing as a person
Yeah.
outside of climbing anyway.
Yeah,
Like you
absolutely.
mentioned, climbing is just a platform.
Yeah, climbing's a platform.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's a great way to I think, something I talk about with my kids a lot is life is really, really hard. They don't know it yet. Maybe they do. Um,
I don't think they've got a
kid,
clue. Sorry.
yeah,
I don't know your
you
kids.
don't think they have a clue?
No, not at all. I think
More
I
or
think
less. Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, Matt, but I think like we're sold an idea, and it's maybe especially like so I'm 44. um, we're told these happy ending stories all the time
Yeah.
as kids, and then we get to life, and then we realize life isn't a happy ending story.
Yeah.
It's hard fucking work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's no question. I mean, these young generations are absolutely the worst generations of in the history of humanity. They're just the worst for all, and it's not their fault. They're just the environment they're in just
Yep.
breeds weakness and addiction and softness and no sense of what's hard out there. I hesitate because in my school job I work in on my whole career I've worked in inner city schools, so I work with at-risk youth with various disadvantages.
Yep.
Those kids in particular know how hard life is.
Yes.
They've
Yeah.
grown
I
up in
agree.
like
Yeah.
pretty, yeah, right. They've grown
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
in really brutal environments, but
Yeah.
the kids that do sport tend to be the more privileged, depending on
Of
the
course.
sport. Like, especially like things like hockey where I grew up.
Yeah.
You're coming from money if you're doing that stupid
Yeah.
sport
Yeah.
because it's expensive. So, yeah, there's a lot of the kids these days are really really soft and they're addicted to a whole
Phones.
bunch of things like screens and
Yeah.
dopamine
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sugar. And so yes, I find as soon as I give these kids something hard to do, um, they they don't want to do it and they sort of melt. And so I think that's I think my main approach is I help my kids understand that we're going to go through something really hard right now, a really hard workout, and I'm going to try to break you. It's my whole point,
Yeah.
just a little bit,
Yeah.
and I want to see how you handle it. And from that perspective, you know, um, when my kids, depending on the kid, they're crying through workouts, literally, and they're little. Um, Parents are there; they're watching, usually with a smile on their face. They usually
Really?
thank me. Yes, they usually thank me afterwards,
Wow.
because they don't get to do that at home, similar to your 17-year-old, right? Like
Yes.
they won't do it, right? But when you
Yeah.
give them to a coach, I can do it,
Yeah.
right? They'll listen.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say every time, except I almost feel like every single time parents pull me aside and say, thank you so much. Like, this is why we're here. We're here for what you do to these kids and what you teach them.
Yeah.
But it's afterwards. This is the part where the reputation, people that are judging they don't see is when I pull the kid aside and sit them down and wipe those tears away and say, look what you did. Look what you just did. You just went through 30 minutes of something brutal. You didn't want to do it. You were uncomfortable the whole time. I was screaming at you the whole time and you did it. So how capable are you? Like, how much can you face? Like, what an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah.
And their sense of empowerment, especially when we do that time and time again, um, you know, I'm pretty proud. My kids are they're animals.
Yeah.
Like when people come and visit my team, they're like, "What is with these kids? Their resiliency and their toughness, but on top of that, their kindness and their
Yeah. Yeah.
empathy for others because they've been through a lot. Like they're just a unique breed. The team from my 7-year-old up are a unique breed of kids. Um, and I'll give you an example. One of my favorite stories, she won't mind me shouting her out, a girl named Kayla, went to nationals a number of years ago, lead nationals. She was one of the favorites to win. She was just in such good shape that season. And it was a bit of a low percentage sort of like run up start, and you weren't on like great feet. And her first move, she slipped.
Okay.
So she's at nationals, flew across the country, trained all year, right? And then slipped on the first move
Right.
in finals, and kind of put her head down and then turned around and bowed to the audience. And the crowd went wild, and it was just an amazing experience. I got more, I think I had a national champion that year in another category, but I got more compliments from coaches and parents on Kayla's bow and her emotional self-control and mental resiliency in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you are familiar with the youth competition scene, when kids fall on first moves, it's a show. Like the crying and the tantrum and the
Yeah.
running out of the gym in just complete disarray.
Yeah.
It's just it was a quite a moment that and I was proud of that she very quickly reframed this to like, you know, what a unique part of life that I get to fly across the country and train so hard and fall off the first move. That's a story to remember. And that's immediately what she did. She immediately reframed it. She immediately didn't do, oh, poor me, or
Yeah.
oh, I'm embarrassed, or
Yeah.
oh, what will people think,
Yeah.
or oh, I suck, or
Yeah.
all the things that we go to that our default mode is just self-sabotage immediately, right? Or to make things mean something that they don't mean. She just immediately reframed to big picture thinking and turned around and smiled and bowed. And it was an impressive display on her part.
Must have been a proud moment for you.
Was a proud moment for me because she'd been with me since she was really little. So it was years and years of just mental resiliency and big picture thinking and learning to put things in perspective.
Yeah.
Um, but I tell that story as an example of what we do and
Yeah.
why it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you you're both you got two daughters, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So are they do you coach or have coached both of them?
No, my eldest is currently living in Austria, climbing full time.
Okay.
She's overcoming a pretty horrific what should be and would be considered a career-ending injury. It was a pretty horrible fall, a year of rebuilding, and now she's trying to get back into competition shape. So she moved to Austria to really focus on being in that environment where the climbs are world class and
Okay.
surrounded by other pros. And so she's back building. She was the one that grew up as a multinational champion in Canada as a youth climber. My other daughter doesn't climb at all. She's an academic. She reads and hangs out and writes and
Yeah.
yeah, a bit of a bookworm, really
Okay.
smart kid. So
Okay.
she's not doing much athletics
Yeah.
other than going for walks with mom and enjoying life. She's a cool
Yeah.
kid.
Okay. So how did you find coaching your daughter? Was that any different
No,
to the
this is a question I get all the time, and she gets it all
Really?
the time. Yeah,
Really?
because
Okay.
yeah, it's I don't have an answer that's applicable to others, unfortunately.
Oh,
Um, Indy and I have always just got along.
okay.
Um, Not
Similar
just got along, but
personality to
like
you.
yeah, like we're friends. Like you know, she'll get invited to do a thing and with friends, and she'll say, "No, I'd rather stay home and hang out with my dad and mom. Like I'd rather." Go climbing or, we're just really, really close. And the coaching always, like we have I don't know if it's a bit of a separation, but like there's times when I'm coach and there's times when I'm dad. Um,
Okay.
but there's not much difference because when I'm dad, we're still like, we're still talking about growth and becoming and doing cool things with our lives and like, we're always chatting about related items like
Okay.
what do we want to do with our lives and what's important and you know that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's very similar to how I coach is like this is just climbing is not really a big deal, but what's a big deal is like what do we want to do with our lives and how do we get there and how do we face challenges and difficulty and
Yeah.
it's the same conversations I have with my kids that aren't my kids, like my team. It's the same stuff I talk to my daughter about.
Yeah. But I guess you
Yeah.
treat them I mean, it's treating them like your kids loosely.
Sort of, sort of. I mean, it's bizarre. I guess it's normal for me, but other coaches that visit tell me it's. I'm very invested in their lives. Um, uh, Even my parents group, like they have their own chat on WhatsApp, all the parents, and they like get together and like hang out. And during team practices, the parents are helping support the little kids and like working with them, and it's like a really tight community,
Okay.
really, really tight. And from what I've seen in my world travels, it's pretty unique, pretty rare.
Okay.
Um, but for me, that's what I'm trying to cultivate. I'm trying to cultivate um, community and love and belonging and kindness and compassion for others, as well as really hard work and
Yeah.
discipline and
Yeah.
consistency and
Yeah.
grind.
Yeah.
And I think it's that, you know, that mix that makes it beautiful and makes people really feel like this is a special thing and they're glad to be a part of it and they want to help. Um, yeah, it's hard to explain to others that are
Yeah.
just used to a normal climbing team, but
Yeah.
it's pretty special.
Yeah, but I guess the parents can see the benefit it has and the positive impact it has on their kids,
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
and hence, I guess you're so busy.
Yes, sir.
So, can you give me some examples of some of the I guess exercises that you do to make the kids work
Suffer?
up to breaking point?
Yeah, sure. So that's a good question and an important question. The one thing that if I again, if I'm passing this on to other coaches, I do coaching workshops all over around the world as well, and
Yeah,
this is a question that always comes up. It's really important to not do any sort of exercises that uh, are sort of repeated motion on the joints. So
yeah,
like you can't push the kids in like push-ups or squats or something like that because you're just getting up with flared up joints and you're getting up with an injury long before the kids feel like they need to quit, right? Like
yeah,
you can yell at a kid to keep going and all they're gonna end up with is an elbow injury.
yeah,
Um, so what I do it with is I do it with cardio. I do it with endurance. So endurance is a way, and we can do that with it doesn't have to be like classic things like, air bike, the assault bike, which is fantastic. Or, running or things like that. You can do it with fitness. So you could create a fitness circuit where the athletes are required to go from exercise to exercise to exercise, and you just start reducing their rest time.
yeah,
And really short, like high reps, but in various exercises, and they just move from station to station to station to station. A
yeah,
lot of core, a
yeah,
lot of jumping, plyometrics, things like that,
yeah,
and they just start to get tired.
yeah,
And as they start to get tired, their form starts to diminish,
yeah,
and that's a good thing because this is a great time to teach form. So a lot of the yelling I do is to correct their form.
yeah,
So I'm reinforcing good habits right away, especially if you are going to push yourself physically. Once you lose form, then you end up with an injury. So keeping the neck straight, the spine straight, keeping the core engaged, that's the sort of thing. So and then maybe when I say keep going, it's only like one or two extra reps. It's not like crazy. We're just talking about
rather
like
than
once I see
20.
them, yeah, yeah, exactly. Once I see that they're tired and they're trembling, I just get their form correct. I make that happen no matter what. That's non-negotiable. And then it's like another rep. And yeah, sure, after a few minutes, the kids have tears rolling down their face because it's just they're not used to it, right? They're not used to pushing. And it's beautiful. It doesn't happen all the time. We only do it every once in a while, but it's just to make sure that they keep that ability, not to push, but the ability to know that they can push, and that's the
Yeah,
distinction for me.
yeah,
I don't care that they're pushing hard. I just want them to know that they can push hard,
yeah,
that they can get uncomfortable and they can stay there.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing that, it's been around forever.
Yeah.
I just, that's a big part of what we do.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's I guess in that moment when because like when you're in a moment and giving it everything you've got, it feels uncomfortable, but at
Oh
least
yeah.
you then have comfort in knowing that even though you might be uncomfortable, that you've been there 100 times before, and
Yeah.
you know that you can
That's right.
give it a little bit more, stay in that
Yeah.
moment a bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. And it's you have to watch it though, because as the kids get tougher, they can push themselves through. They don't necessarily have the language, the vocabulary to sometimes differentiate, even though we focus a lot on it, differentiating between pain and uh, like tweaks. One thing we do is the kids are taught right away when they join the team that muscle pain is something they should obviously tell me about right away. Um, but often with muscle pain, depending on what we're talking about, sometimes we can push through that. Sometimes it's just achy muscles. But joint pain, wrist, elbow, shoulder, neck, spine,
yeah,
they have to stop immediately
yeah,
and
yeah,
tell
yeah.
me. They actually signed contracts with their parents on this in this regard. Um, just because, years and years ago, I had an athlete hide a finger injury from me, and when I finally noticed the swelling, um, it was too late. He had growth plate fractures, and I don't
Yeah,
think he ever climbed again.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
ever since then, I was just like, okay, like this is mandatory. I need to
yeah,
hear from you exactly. So my kids are stopping working out all the time, and they are telling me, if there's an issue. And a lot of the times, I'd say most of the times, we are changing the exercise so that they don't get hurt or they don't
Yeah.
push too hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Rarely do I say keep going. The only time I really say keep going is if it's skin stuff with climbing
Yeah.
and their skin is like really thin or bleeding. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care. Tape up and keep going. Like nobody cares about your skin pain. Just no one cares. Just keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
That's when I really get to have like a playful, fun time with them because skin is skin. Like,
Yeah. 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 It grows
you know,
back, right?
it grows back, and I
Yeah.
know it hurts. Like I know climbing with thin skin hurts, but you're not going to die. Just
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
going,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that's when I'll really push, especially in training camps when their skin is just getting shredded.
Yeah.
But yeah, with joint and muscle pain, we usually stop. We usually move on, get them assessed. I don't want kids hurt. In fact, getting hurt is counterproductive because now they need to take a week off or something like that. So
Yeah.
we avoid injury, even small ones, at all costs,
Yeah.
just so that the kids can have longevity and keep going.
Yeah.
But the kids themselves can't necessarily tell the difference. And so as they get tougher and as they become more resilient, I have to watch them even more closely.
Yeah.
And it's usually me now who's pulling them off the wall and saying, "You're done. You're done for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
day."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Or like, no, they're like, "Oh, I have one more set to do," and I'm like, "No, you're done. You're not. You don't have one more set to do,"
Yeah.
because they get so tough that they'll push through stuff that I'll find out the next day is like, you know, pretty bad. Like they'll have a swollen whatever the next day, and
Yeah.
so over time, I've learned that producing tough kids is um, you have to watch them even more carefully because they'll push,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and it's a great thing,
Yeah.
but they'll push too hard because they're young. They don't have the
Yeah. Yeah.
experience. So I find with my older kids, I'm constantly policing them to rest more.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But that's a hard thing, isn't it? Like even you're saying that when you were climbing 7 days a week, and that's
yeah,
not
old school, old
yeah,
school.
old school, right? But it's not helpful, right, for the body because
No,
the body doesn't recover.
no, no. And I didn't know any better back then. I was just like, I have nothing else to do today. I should go climbing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Isn't it
Yeah,
funny how like climbing seems to create a lot of obsessive
it
people?
does. It does.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that's the same with other sports. Maybe all sports are like that, but yeah, it's
I think I think climbing attracts quite nerdy people.
I think so as well. It's similar to jiu-jitsu. That's my other sport. It's like
Okay.
high academic, you know,
Yeah,
and intelligent problem solving.
yeah,
Yeah. But I
yeah.
find that
See,
I find that also like I can tell you that every kid on my team is like straight A's. Every single one
okay.
is like high level academic.
Yeah,
Um, like that's the whole team. It's weird. But I think maybe it's because of what you said. Like it just they lend themselves to each other
yeah, yeah.
climbing and yeah.
Yeah. See, jiu-jitsu is probably a sport that I'd love to try, but
Oh, do it.
knowing what I'm like, I'd probably get so into it that
You
I
will.
I forget about climbing.
You might. You might.
Yeah.
I left climbing for jiu-jitsu.
Did you?
Yes. Yes, I'm obsessed. Like it's for me, it's just I'm 50, so I
Yeah.
turned 50 this month or this week.
Okay.
And yeah, for me, just and I'm also a small guy. I'm 5'7",
Okay.
155 pounds. For me, jiu-jitsu is amazing exercise, amazing way to grow old. I stay very flexible. And strong and capable. And that's the thing that I really like just as a guy. I just like walking around knowing that I can kill and eat a man if I want to. Like like it's a really good
Confidence
confidence
booster.
booster for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah, yeah.
sure.
But it's nice to know, isn't it? I guess
It's nice to know.
yeah, yeah, we're still fairly primitive in our mindset, right?
At least I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like me too. I'd still like to be, I guess, physically strong until my old age, and
Yeah.
maybe like I'm making a pure judgment,
Yeah.
not being a woman, but I think women would like to obviously be attractive to a
Sure.
later age, possibly.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Both my daughters were required. I made them do jujitsu before high school.
Okay.
So both my daughters had to know how to kill a man before they went to high school.
That means you don't have to buy a shotgun.
That's right. That's right. And they both got very good.
Okay, cool.
Especially Indiana, the eldest who's a climber. Like uh, professor was like, "Do you want to switch sports?" Like she was just bizarrely good at it.
Yeah, but maybe I
Yeah,
think it's the mindset, isn't it? It's that mindset of
yeah,
resilience, it's that mindset of learning stuff and continuously progressing. And I
yeah.
think it then doesn't matter what sport you do, you'll
That's right.
adapt to whatever you throw yourself at.
Yeah, well, I mean, also there's so much related, like her hip mobility lends itself
Yeah,
perfectly. Sequencing,
yeah,
a like what the order of operations in terms of movement, also very related to climbing.
strength.
Um, a strength, grip,
Yeah,
grip fighting. So it's the sports are highly related, and I think that's one of the reasons I take jiu-jitsu is because I mean, there's even common names between the two sports in terms of
okay.
certain techniques. So
Oh, really?
yeah, it's just that they're almost identical. For me, they're almost identical. All I see is the correlations between the two because they're very rooted in balance, hip movement, creating space, and and understanding three-dimensional space as you move in it. So
Yeah,
that's when I'm teaching movement courses for for new school climbing movement, all that stuff you see on World Cups with the running and running across volumes and paddle moves and all that stuff. It's and really complex slab and balance and finding your center. I mean, it's very related to moving on the ground. You're just instead of vertical, you're horizontal,
yeah.
but it's the same, very similar movement.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you would like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I might stay away from it for a little bit longer before I jump into it. So when you're working your athletes and you're pushing them, do you ever get athletes that just kind of turn around to you and say, "No, Matt, I'm not doing this"?
No, no,
No?
those athletes don't they're off the team the next day.
Okay. And
So, and I've had that. Very rare, one or two times. Um, they this is so our again, the youth team is we're called a high performance program.
yeah,
We're not a climbing team. We're definitely not a babysitting club. We're not a rec team or a development team.
yeah.
We have a very high standard, and my older athletes help me set that tone. Like the environment is quite rooted in high performance and what that means. All the factors that we've discussed of what that means to be a high performing athlete. So there is no.
Okay.
There's you can, like I said, you can tell me and we can discuss like maybe you're having issues with whatever, and we'll make sure we adapt the training. Um, but the process is designed to push and to excel as a human being.
Okay. And how, I guess do they listen first of all? Do you
100%.
spend some time with them for them to gain respect so that you can push them, or is it just from the
No,
get-go?
no. I think because of my reputation and because of the team's reputation, but also just the ethos in that environment,
Right.
kids come in and they're a little bit like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! Like, I want to be a part of this." So
Okay.
they don't come to me like just out of the blue. These are kids or parents of kids that have seen us performing at comps, and they're like, "We need to be a part of that."
Okay.
So they come very ready to go.
Okay.
Once in a while, like not even I can literally count on one hand for sure, one time at least, where an athlete just, you don't belong here. This isn't a fit. We sat down with parents, then we gave it another week, and it was just like, no, it's not happening.
Okay.
Um, but most kids that come to the team are very aware of what they're coming because they want that,
Okay.
right?
And they're quite
Yeah,
willing participants.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
It is because it is a culture. It's an ethos. You can feel it.
It like it sounds very much like I guess it reminds me of what's that film called? Full Metal Jacket.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, not sure if you're familiar with it.
Yeah,
It's
of course. Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
get drill sergeant who's super hard on all the guys going into the I think it's the Marines.
Sure.
Then you see them all develop, although there's stuff that happens that isn't great in the film, but they all turn out to be quite hardy, quite tough
Right.
personalities as a result.
Yeah, I get nervous about drawing
Yeah, sorry,
parallels
I'm making
with
that comparison,
military.
not you.
No, it's I mean it's not dissimilar, but the kids on the team, especially the young kids, their friends will be like, "Oh my gosh, what's Matt like? Like, is he just looks so mean?" And the kids will be like, "No, he's like so nice." He's like, but again, it's that from looking from the outside, it looks pretty intense.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the kids love it. I mean, they want it. They're coming to the team because they want to be pushed. They
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
to sit on their phone and have no discipline in their lives and just kind of like they want this.
Yeah.
And there's no phones at practice either.
Yeah. Good.
Unless you're using your phone as a timer.
Yeah.
We don't like if they want to rest, they talk and they laugh and they have human communication.
Human
Um,
connection.
yeah, man. There's no phones. There's no phones at
Good.
our practice.
Yeah.
It's not allowed. It's bizarre. Like I just don't get how um you could even allow that. I mean,
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
what are
No,
you there for, right?
completely
And
agree.
parents are paying a lot of money. We're a very expensive program. We're easily the most expensive program in the country.
Yeah.
And I don't mind charging that because of what the kids get and the amount of time I put into it. But there's certainly not any moments wasted within that 3 hours.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but even though I guess the parents are investing in their children, and
That's
what
right.
they're investing in is the child that will become the adult.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
if you can teach that kind of that resilience early on in their
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
then they're going to be set up for life. And it doesn't
And
matter.
that's the goal.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what performance or what achievements or what numbers or results they get within climbing, they're set
No,
for life. And I think resilience is
that's yeah.
probably an incredible gift that you can give a human being.
Yeah, I think that what my approach is transferable. I mean, I could go and coach jiu-jitsu or any sport and it would be the
Yeah,
same program.
yeah,
It
yeah,
wouldn't matter. Climbing is just a vehicle that the kids enjoy, I enjoy, but I could bring it anywhere
yeah,
because the point is not climbing. That's just the vehicle.
yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
if you could give anyone listening to the podcast I don't know, if you can give anyone
Like advice.
advice about one thing that they could do in their climbing that would help them, what would it be? And I guess from a mental perspective.
From a mental perspective, it would be easier. From a climbing perspective, I would, I would have to do some like sweeping statements, like probably your footwork sucks.
Yeah, of
Like,
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
most
Yes.
likely you're bad at footwork,
Yes.
um, like everyone else is.
Yes. Yeah.
I was just visiting a team in Texas, and they, some of their athletes were like, "Yeah, we're really good at slab." I was like, "Okay, let's see." And then I set slab with the footwork that with the with tiny little holds that I have made for me because normal climbing holds are too big for my kids.
Yeah.
Even like tiny little no shadows are like jugs for my kids. So
Yeah.
I have 3D print, metric climbing prints footholds for me that are basically the size of a screw head, like just tiny, tiny things.
Okay.
And so I bring those along and I set with those, and then we discovered that they're not as good at slab as they thought they were. Um, but the biggest mental piece that I give all my athletes is whatever we practice, we get good at.
Yep.
And so the positive in that is if you suck at jump rope and you need to build those synapses between right and left brain coordination, you just give me 20 minutes a day, right? 20 minutes a day, and you're going to be good at jump rope.
Yep.
Like in 6 weeks, 20 minutes a day, like what is that? That's like, I'm not very good at math. It's like 14 hours or something of jump rope in 6 weeks.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's 14 hours of practice. If you
Yep.
do that for 6 months, it's like 56 hours of practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you just get good at jump rope, period. 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
The problem is it goes the other way too. So if you have a habit of telling yourself, like your self-talk is like really negative, like I can't do that,
Yep.
and you do 20 minutes a day, spread throughout the day of I can't do that. That's too hard for me. I suck.
Yeah.
Which is our default mode. I mean, most of us are doing a lot more than 20 minutes a day, but let's just say,
Yeah.
you're only doing 20 minutes a day of negative self-talk. In 6 weeks, that's 14 hours of practice.
Yeah.
In 6 months, that's 56 hours of practice
Yeah.
where you are just building this skill of tearing yourself down.
Yeah.
And trying to combat that with positivity and it's so much work,
Of course.
right? I mean, it's really
You
hard
can't
because you
just
get
put
so
in the
good at it.
20 minutes a day, right? You got to put in
That's right.
40 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So whatever we practice, we get good at, and practicing self-doubt, we get really good at it.
Yeah, yeah,
Practicing self-belief, we can get really good at it.
yeah,
And that's the main thing is because I'm a big fan of consistency.
yeah,
I'm also aware of the power of consistency in how much we can do that harms us and holds us back
yeah,
and limits our beliefs, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and we live in a culture that breeds that. I mean, we're constantly being told we're not good enough and we should buy this thing to feel better.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or, I mean, this
That's
is
good
the world we
marketing,
live
isn't
in.
it?
Yeah, this is the world we live in. It's just,
Yeah,
social media is not helping. Instagram is not helping.
yeah,
And I say that as a having a big platform on Instagram. I hate it.
yeah,
If I didn't use it for business, I wouldn't have it.
yeah.
Um,
Agree.
because these kids are dying.
Yeah,
It's just tearing them apart. And you add that with the crap that they're eating and the blue light in their face all night so that they can't sleep. Like
yeah,
it's just such a hostile environment to raising strong, confident, healthy kids.
yeah,
So my biggest passion is to combat that and to help these kids develop a little bit more healthy. And like I said, we just use climbing as a
yeah,
methodology. Yeah.
yeah. I think phones should be made illegal for children under the age of 16 at least.
Yeah, I would love that. I
Yeah,
would love that.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of parents would too.
Yeah, and parents get stuck because they get in patterns of behavior, right? Like you
Of course.
hand that iPad to them when they're 4, and oh my gosh, suddenly there's peace. And I can get work done. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I can actually get work done. So like it's hardly even the parents' fault, even though it's the parents' fault. It's like you
That's
also
me.
like again when I work with the kids at school and it's a single mom and she's got 4 kids and the iPad is an amazing way of just shutting your kids up and you can actually go to work and get stuff done. Like
Yeah,
I get it. I get it. It's really hard out there.
yeah,
It's really, really rough, and there's not much going for any of us. Um, so, community, like what
yeah,
I try to build in team and helping one another and resiliency. I mean, this is my why.
yeah,
My why is it's friggin' hard out there, and the
yeah,
whole system is set up to make us fail and be dependent. And I want to build independent, strong kids.
yeah, yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for your time, Matt.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, it's really nice, not nice to chat. Nice to hear your view, and I think there should be like having 2 kids. I think there should be more coaches like you.
I
More,
appreciate that. It's
yeah,
it's
more role models.
we all need them, right? We all need
Yeah,
we
of
all
course.
need
Yeah,
role models. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And a bit of hardship is good for the heart, right? Good for the soul.
Super, super good for us.
I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast with Matt. I really enjoyed having a chat with Matt. He had some really great insight, and I love his idea of creating resilience within youngsters, which of course sets them up for life. If you are interested in Matt's coaching services, we will add a link in the podcast description. If you are watching the YouTube clip, check out below and we will put a website link in there. If you've got any topics that you'd like us to talk about or discuss, or if you would like to suggest anyone that we should interview, uh, send us an email, send us a message on social media, and hopefully we'll get something going. Thanks for listening. See you next time.